Haohyoh Wakwanukwarado, Tyendinaga ni Waksanolda, and Yakahakani Wakwanzod, and Wakina, Takina, then they got taken into Wakano, Ontario Nugadi, and saw Teregas in the Gon. Dano ne Haohyoh Ngwana, Dano Garihodo, Dano Gadjatani on Oyeri, Isinogadi Oyeri no Saraka, Akadawiaste, or Wakadawiasta Hatzanongwana. My name is Nathan Brinklow. I am Mohawk. I'm Turtle Clan from Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory. I teach language. I try my best to learn language, and it's been over 10 years I've been putting things together and trying to do the best that I can. So part of the speeches that we shared are kind of put together from historic sources in one way and just different pieces, but in the olden days at a condolence and the same ceremonies were borrowed for diplomatic purposes, the people would come and they'd arrive at the edge of the woods and you'd be watching or waiting for them, but when they got there, that's as far as they went until they were welcomed properly. Partly I think because you want to make sure they're not going to hurt you. So anybody who just comes right in, if they don't belong there, you have to question their motives. But when you see them there waiting, you go out and you welcome them, ascertain the reason why they're there. And a condolence, you obviously know they're coming because they've announced that you've invited them, they're coming, and they're doing that. But that section at the edge of the woods is about welcoming them and starting the process of lifting them up from their grief. So Iroquois people, Mohawk people, we throw around the word condolence in a lot of different ways that kind of typical English people wouldn't, or English-speaking people wouldn't. For us, it's like an act and a ceremony, but this idea of raising up the minds of the people who have had their minds thrown to the ground in grief and in death. So the words are there about welcoming them. You've heard them coming, that they've come for this purpose. You're acknowledging why they're there. You're acknowledging their grief and their loss. This isn't just as someone has died. You do the same thing in a diplomatic context, right? That thing that happened to them is interfering with their ability to see clearly, to hear clearly, to speak clearly. That this grief has bound them up, and the troubles of travel have distracted them and maybe binding them up. If they've got dust in their eyes or thorns in their feet or burrs in their clothes. And so this process at the edge of the woods is about welcoming them and kind of ritually purifying, cleansing them, lifting that grief, lifting that burden. And so the eyes, the ears, and the throat, that you clear those symbolically. With the throat, you clear it literally. You offer a drink of water, and then so that they can speak clearly, so that they can hear clearly, so they can see clearly. And that clear thought as the basis of everything is going forward, whether that's moving on from grief and installing a new chief, or whether that's moving into a diplomatic council. Right? You can't do any of that as long as your senses, your eyes, your ears, and your throat are blocked up, because those are like communication, to make right communication. So all the stuff at the edge of the woods happens to enable kind of productive communication, to lift the burdens, to lift the grief, and to move forward in a good way.
Hi, 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 one sayo sawanyo, hi, hi, echi ya dele ya, hi. Ai, ona, onta, hidake. Ai, ai, wale, wis, on your way. One night I had this dream about, I was standing there, and I could see people standing beside me that I know, but yet I looked down and I could see old faces as far as I could see, and they were holding this string. And so we're just another part in that time. Now we're doing what their ancestors did. We're pulling that string. It's time that we do this, either ceremonies or doing this. Chio li wagwego ai ai wali wis Well, in our way, there's no it's straight like a heartbeat, just right straight out. Because it's come from our ancestors. You know, our ancestors were and still are greatest orators in the world. You know, we can, at least we have that. Nobody can take that away. And nobody can take any of this away, you know, because we're living it. The things that, those metaphors are so beautiful, and they still use them today, and it comes right from our ancestors who have lived it.
Swaya Dagwanioso Nene Dega Lihoga
Being now assembled at the council fire kindled by your brother, we have something on our parts to say to you, which is that we have been very uneasy for some time past at the many bad reports we have heard from your country, tending to create disturbances. And as you cannot but know the ancient agreement entered into between our brethren, the English, and us, of holding fast by the covenant chain and preserving it entire, so that no cause should occasion its being broke, and that if any of your nephews or young men should infringe that agreement, the sachems and chiefs should put a stop to the proceedings, immediately accommodate matters and prevent any trouble, that we should do everything on our parts, and you and yours, for the preservation of peace. Have you not seen that all the most distant nations have made peace and entered into an alliance with the English? Shall we then, who have always been considered as allies, forgetful of our formal promises and engagements, be the first people to promote war? If you do not regard your ancient treaties and agreements, we beg you will consider the dangerous consequences attendant on war, that you will reflect on the hazards to which our wives and children must be exposed thereby, and the blood which you will be the cause of spilling. We therefore earnestly desire that, by this belt, you will think on what you may have been about, that you will call to mind your old alliances, and use your most vigorous efforts to put a stop to any evil designs, which you may have foolishly had in hand, as well as cause all those concerned to repent of their bad intentions.
The things that bring us together at one time where we had not very good feelings with one another from our border here, you know, and the border isn't put there by us, it's put there by somebody else. And because we were freely to go anywhere, even if you wanted to establish a place to stay, you could say, oh, I like this place, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to live here. That's why even in Canada, along Lake Ontario, our people were all over, you know, and we traveled and they say, where do all these people go? There's longhouses there and nobody's there. Where are they gone? Well, when the land became exhausted, they moved, went to another place. And then, well, maybe it's time to move back where you used to live. And that's the way it was. But as I say, times have changed, and it was like a culture shock, you know, when other people come here, you know, and we made these belts, 2-row, because we have people now moving here, so the clan mothers and chiefs got together and live beside one another, so we should make these agreements with one another as friends, and that we will respect each other's laws, because we're going up this river side by side in our canoe and in their vessel. And that's what those 3 lines, those 3 rows mean: peace, friendship, trust. Peace, friendship, trust. Peace, friendship, trust. By your canoe. It's all around. It's all around you.
The object of owning land in the 18th century was to have that land work for you to generate an income. That is what a gentleman would do.
Right.
And so, much like the great houses in England that were producing crops, that had tenant farms, maybe small villages where there were shops and homes that were paying rent to the manor house, that's very, very much the way Johnson Hall was established. And eventually all of that property, all of those land holdings would have had small towns, much like Johnstown that Sir William was establishing, and it also would have had tenant farms across all of that acreage. So it would have been a combination of things. There were also mills that were being built in various places that would support processing the grain that was being produced by some of the tenants. There were also grist mills. There were also mills for cutting timber as well.
But I guess we could still get tricked though, because our heart is still a old Indian heart. We're taught always somebody come, give them something to drink. If you got food, you share it with them. If they're tired, you tell them to go lay down to sleep over there. You never ask them, are you tired? You just say, there's a fixer over there. When you're tired, you just sleep there. We got food. Even if we don't have much, we split it up until we all eat. That's the way all the Haudenosaunee people are taught. So that's why it was so easy to take over everything we had, because we would open our door too much. So I used to hear my uncle say that that ceremonies chain, stuff like that. So the way my uncle used to say it is that whenever there's a new president, which is every 4 years, that new president is supposed to invite the chiefs to go there, and they're supposed to polish the covenant chain, so no rust or confusion come between our agreement, to keep it new as the day it was made. And I don't know of any precedent in my memory or visitations or study, or I don't know if any president ever did that.
So that's only a few belts. You know, we got 400 belts. And I got probably replicated around 54 belts. Got a lot more that I could do, but it's coming. But it puts you in another place. I always say that your reason why these answers come to you when you're making things out of a belt, it's an energy. It's an energy that comes from there and comes in your head that nobody has told you before. Because every belt is a circle. Every belt. Our ceremonies are a circle. There you go. There's a circle there. Because anything in life is a circle. Because it affects you. Like if you do something good or bad, it's going to come back to you sooner or later. So I never heard that before. Nobody told me that before. Until it's nice to see, I guess, confirm what you was told by energy, universal energy, that is true. This chief that met George Washington, he talked about that, and he says the very first thing he did is that he got this belt, and he says, when I talk about this belt, this is what I'm talking about, and he put it, and he stood it up. This is what it is. It's a circle.
Song Ahohyoh, ai 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 ai
A month. I'll give myself a month. Now I'm going already. I'm going to go there. You know, what gave away at that time.
Doga nua rudiandale ga wanalasto igole rudia ashweka.
Yeah.
Sanuhta doga Cayuga jini hati wanota ne osa se saltamist.
Yeah.
Ga ni okeha.
Yeah. Yeah, eso ni con Jeremy Green. Teo da Carrado es en rodillo. Oni en toca hili wanundes.
O se ni kuna indase ne oje o ye kwatala. O se ni kuna indase o ye kwatala.
No, ne.
No, se lo ri se ni kuna indase no o do chilo.
Oh no? Oh, okay. Like Kokinu. Yeah, no, just all what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told him to explain what we're talking about.
Excuse me. Yeah, so just I said I'll give myself a month, and next time I see him, I'll tell him what I learned. I'll go after this, but try to track down these things and who has recordings, and they have some stuff at 6, and different people have them in different languages, and there's stuff to learn from if you can find it.